Hi everyone, this is Karen White of Divine Time Astrology, and today Neeshee Pandit is with me. And again, like last month, we're talking about the full moon, and this time in Taurus, for all 12 signs today. The full moon gives and has something to offer you, and we'll tell you what that is. Neeshee brings his knowledge not only of astrology, but Ayurveda. He's an Ayurveda practitioner as well, the traditional medicine of India. And he'll tell us the significance of this full moon for our health and well-being. We'll discuss the element, the sign, the light the full moon and Taurus will bring to you personally, where it will be in your birth chart, and what it has to give you. And we're gonna be doing this for every full moon, every month, for all 12 signs. Hi, Neeshee.
Hi, Karen. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, absolutely. It's always a pleasure. So you can start off. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. And I have this set for United Kingdom, Greenwich, because that's just where the center is for everything. And it's set for the exact time that the moon is full. So that is 1745, which is 5:45 p.m. in Greenwich, United Kingdom. And Neeshee is going to talk to us today about, well, he's going to start us off by talking about the element that the moon is in, and it's in Taurus. The fact that it's exalted, look at that, the degree that it's at too. It's not exactly, but it's heading towards its exaltation sign. Exaltation degree, I mean. And yeah, so he's going to start us off.
Okay. So the first thing I think we all need to consider and contemplate about this full moon is the fact that it's happening in its sign of exaltation, which is Taurus. And we can learn a lot about planets by understanding where they're exalted. Because what does it mean for a planet to be exalted? It means that that is the sign or the body where that energy is limitlessly manifested. So the moon's light is abundant in the sign of Taurus as opposed to any of the other signs of the zodiac. So the moon is exalted there. It's radiant. It's fully manifesting its potentials. So what does that mean? Why is it in Taurus that it is that way? I think that's, that reveals a lot of things about the nature of the moon. And that's going to help us understand more about why we even do these videos, why we even do full moon forecasts, right? Because the moon is a really significant planet, being one of the two luminaries. And here it is, this full moon coming up is significant because it's going to be in Taurus. So the first thing that comes to my mind when I'm thinking about this full moon is that Taurus is an earth sign. And why is the moon exalted in an earth sign? Well, if we think about it Ayurvedically, or even just Vedically, the moon is considered to be Soma. Now, Soma is one of the Vedic deities that's discussed in the Rig Veda, along with Agni, which is the sun. And Soma is considered to be the god of plants and vegetables, because the moon is that which nourishes things, that which allows things to grow, right? Especially those things which nourish us. So that's really interesting. And I think that's one of the core connections between the moon being exalted in an earth sign. The moon is the earth satellite. The moon is the light that's shining on earth and allowing those things to fall, to grow on earth that nourish us. It's that nourishing energy for life on earth. So I think that's really important to consider. And there's also all kinds of other levels to it that you can think about, because obviously the moon's debilitated in Scorpio, but it's exalted in Taurus, its opposite sign. The moon being a phasing planet and Taurus being a fixed sign. All kinds of things like that we could say. But I just want to start with this elemental connotation of the earth and the moon's relationship to the earth and nourishment. I think those are the core themes of the moon being in Taurus.
Yes, can I interrupt you for a moment?
Go for it.
One of the things I wanted to ask you is, do you think you could sit a little closer to the camera?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
my head is like gigantic compared to yours, and like we're really off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, thank you.
This is probably as close as I can get.
But okay, that's fine. I was wondering if it was your Scorpio moon keeping you like far away. Just kidding. Anyway,
Okay.
I'm
So,
gonna edit that part out. So,
no, it's fine.
unless you want me to keep it in.
You can if you want.
Okay. Okay.
All right, let me see. Okay. Here we are. Okay.
Thanks.
So that's my introduction on moon being in an earth sign. If you want to add something or expound on that, Karen, go for it.
The only thing I want to add to it is that the sign of Taurus is the sign of material prosperity and consistent, stable financial well-being. That's another reason probably why the moon is exalted in Taurus, because we live on Earth where these things matter. And the moon is about our personal emotional needs. That's what we are always seeking to fulfill, because the moon is always hungry. Even when it's full, though it's less hungry when it's full. It's more giving. Well, it is giving. But one of the things that we're here to do is to learn how to meet our emotional needs. And in the sign of Taurus, we're especially good at that. Because it's not, we need things here on Earth. You know, we need money. We need some amount of abundance of, you know, we need to eat every day. All these Earth things. This is Earth sign stuff. And also, we need to be able to ask for what we want. We need to be able to be clear in when we're seeking what we need, how to ask for it in a way that we're more likely to get it than to push it away from us. So when your natal moon is in the sign of Taurus, it represents a person who's very receptive to receiving whatever good life has to give us. And gracious, usually very gracious about it, and then wants to share that with everyone else. So that's all I wanted to say about the moon in Taurus. For Aries, the full moon in Taurus is in the second house, which is the critical house for the full moon. And again, this happens only once a year. And what it does is it sheds light on whether or not you're getting your emotional needs met. And usually it means that you get some kind of emotional need met during the full moon, period. And you know, the moon is reflective, so you can be thinking about how you are meeting your needs and relationships that you're in, whether those relationships are meeting your needs, and also whether the other person is getting their need met too. Even though the moon is about our personal emotional needs, it's in a Venus sign. So the other person matters here, and the better our relationships, the better our life. So, of course, we want to think about that. But it's also very concrete material things, too, like money and resources, food, and whether or not you're eating well. Because it's in the second house of what goes into the body. It's in Taurus, rules the senses, right? Because Taurus is the face and the throat. So it brings all of that to mind. And I would recommend that you take the time and the energy to make a nourishing meal for yourself and for the people you love in your life on this day, which we didn't mention when the full moon is. It's on the 24th. It's on the 24th of this month. And to be exact, in Greenwich, United Kingdom, at 5:45 p.m. So you'll have to figure out what it is for you, where you are in your part of the world. Okay, so Neeshee, you can take it from here.
Okay, I think for Aries people, they just had a significant full moon. because the full moon was in their first house last time there was a full moon. This time it's in their second house. Both of those are significant houses. So Aries people are the recipients of a lot of lunar energy right now. So that's really nice. What comes to mind for me is the fact that Aries is a very fiery and movable sign. And Taurus is really a very cool and fixed, earthy sign. And so for Aries people, this is actually really balancing because they need that. And this full moon is going to show them the ways in which stability is needed for our needs to be met. You know, if you're always moving from one thing to the next, or you're always transforming things, which is the principle of fire, you don't necessarily feel fulfilled. You're always moving from one thing into the next thing, into the next thing. But a full moon in Taurus is going to show that the need for stability, for constancy in things, for staying in place in order to really receive the energy that's there. Because if you're always leaving one place to the next, whether that's psychologically, emotionally, energetically, or physically, it doesn't matter. If you're always leaving where you live in any of those areas, you're not going to receive the energy that's there, that's yours to take and breathe in and feel nourished by. So fire element is not really a nourishing quality. Fire is about transformation, purification, transmutation. It's about growth, expansion, change. Yeah. But earth is about, the ground, the stability, the roots, right? The roots are in the ground. That which we can stand upon, that which we can rely on. When we're connected to the ground, our feet are touching the earth, that's when we're receiving energy, right? So I think this is really an opportunity for Aries people to just drop out, tune in, receive, and be nourished. Yeah. I'll say one more thing, which is relevant to Aries, but really all of the fire signs. But really, especially for Aries, given this second house placement of the full moon for them, which is that the moon, also medically speaking, represents our immunity. In the sense of what we call in Ayurveda, ojas, which is the vital essence, the essence of the reproductive tissue. So Venus is also immunity. And Venus is, of course, ruling Taurus. So you can see there's a connection between vitality and immunity and between Venus and the moon. But the essence of that reproductive tissue, that reproductive fluid, which is called shukra, is ojas. And ojas is our immunity. And the things that consume ojas are airy and fiery in nature. So ojas is of the nature of earth and water elements. And the more fire element we have, the more air element we have, the more we're using up that ojas, the less immunity we have, the less protection we have from all that would enter us that may be harmful to our health, that may compromise us. The more sensitive we become, overly sensitive we become to things in our environment, the less nourished we feel, the less stable we feel. You know? The people who are really super stressed out and fluctuating this and that way, they never feel good, they never feel safe, they never feel calm. Their ojas is really depleted. So ojas is that lunar essence in our bodies. So this is an opportunity for people to really cool those flames, soak in that essence. Because you need it for health, for immunity.
Right, especially Aries, because look, it's aspected by Mars, Ketu, Rahu. And all these planets, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter. Now, Venus is Venus and Jupiter are helpful. Yes. But the Sun, Mars, Ketu, Rahu, these are all not as helpful for your physical health. And this is, I'm speaking specifically for Aries rising people here. So this full moon can be like the best moon of the whole year for you. You know, it is the best moon of the whole year for you. So yeah. Okay. So you ready to move on to Taurus?
Let's move on to Taurus.
Well, Taurus has it right in their first house. This is especially Taurus rising. Though it works also for Taurus moon and Taurus sun, but most effectively for the ascendant sign. And if you don't know what that is, but you do know your birth time, you can go to my website, divinetimeastrology.com, and there's a free chart calculator there. You just put in your birth data. You must have the birth time in order to find out your rising sign. Okay, so this means when you have the full moon right in the first house, it is a time where you feel more relaxed. You can actually feel this on your body. And it's a time to give yourself something. If there's something that you've been wanting, but you haven't had time to get to it, and it could be a thing, it could be an event, an activity, time with a relationship, then you have about a week to plan it. And I would make sure that you do it on that day, because it's a very nourishing moon. And that's what it means when the full moon is in the first house, is that you get to you get it to be the day to be about you, basically, and what you need, especially for your body, because the ascendant is directly related to the body as in whole, the whole body. You can buy yourself some new clothes. I know the moon likes new clothes. You can perhaps get some kind of a treatment for yourself, like a massage, or go to the chiropractor or an acupuncturist or an Ayurveda practitioner. You could do something like that, and you will get a lot out of it, more than you normally would. So what would you like to say about that, Neeshee?
Well, I agree with everything that you said about this being very nourishing for Taurus people. Of course, first house, the body. The one thing I would caution people is that, now this is not true across the board, that all Taurus people are like kapha types. It's not necessarily the case. There are a lot of Taurus people who are lean, who are like vata pitta types more or less, etc. If you are a Taurus person, Taurus ascendant, who is a kapha type, who is of a heavier constitution and build, who has more earth and water elements, you're going to be getting a lot more of that energy with this full moon. And you might gain some weight. You might, if you already have a problem with weight, if you already have a problem with excess water, edema, things like that, those things could get exacerbated by this full moon, because you're getting a lot of lunar energy. Lunar energy is not a moving energy. It's very much like that nourishing, stable energy that's accumulating inside of you, that's to be stored. So if you already have a lot of storage, if you already have like a reservoir going, you're getting a lot more on it that maybe you don't need.
Yeah.
So in that case, you just want to be conscious about that, and also conscious of the fact that there's 4 planets in Scorpio, which is also a water sign. So there's a lot of watery energy going around here. So just be aware of that. Try to maybe eat on that day and the days surrounding it, before and after. That energy is kind of happening in sort of a span of time. It's not just one event, right? The full moon is just an apex. So just around that time, try to reduce eating foods that are kapha-inducing, heavy foods, dairy products, things like that. You don't necessarily need those things with this full moon coming around. You could adopt a diet that's lighter in nature.
That's a good idea, so that you can enjoy the day and feel good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Instead of getting heavy.
And I noticed too that Saturn is aspecting the moon for Taurus.
That's right.
What would you say about that? Do you find that it helps? But Taurus is in an earth sign too, so that's kapha as well, isn't it?
It is. In particular, see that it makes the connotations for like stagnation of energy stronger. Now, the only reason, the moon is really about flow, so I don't want people to get confused when I'm talking about stagnation, but I'm talking about that in the context of people who are already quite lunar in nature, which is the kapha people are the most lunar people. That's why they have more storage. The moon is about holding essence in that sense. So For those people, a full moon could cause stagnation because there's just too much to hold there. Now, Saturn is going to make that worse because Saturn is not about flow. Saturn's about constriction of flow. So wherever Saturn is entering the picture, everything's going to get a bit more blocked. So, you know, channels can get clogged and the energy that should be flowing through meridians might get stuck, things like that. So this is a time to really invigorate oneself. And if you invigorate yourself, you can really make use of it because you're making room for this lunar energy to move into your body.
So when you say invigorate, you mean like go for a walk, go hiking, do some kind of exercise?
Get the blood flowing.
Okay.
That can be walking. It can be yoga. It can be vigorous exercise. And eating a light diet, so not overburdening the body's digestive fire. Both of those together will allow for a more fulfilling experience of this lunar energy and allow it to be the most balancing thing for Taurus people. Otherwise, emotionally, mentally, it's quite a fulfilling moon for them. But physically, it has this potential to be somewhat of a clogging influence. For those who are more kapha natured now, that's important to remember.
Right, right. Look at this. Look what else is happening for Taurus. Look at this whole lineup here in Scorpio.
That's right.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
So there's a huge emphasis on the 7th house, which is the partner, the public, other people, while the full moon in the 1st house is more about self. So I think that they may also have maybe a little bit more of a hard time actually being able to focus on themselves on this day, just because there's, you know, in this 1-7 axis, this is so heavily loaded. But
which may be a very good thing for them.
Maybe.
Because kapha people can tend, like truly kapha people can tend to be lunar in the sense of being withdrawn and more hermit-like and homebodies. Your classic kind of Taurian archetype. And they maybe need to get out and connect more with people. They maybe need to get out and interact and not just be withdrawn and, you know, in that sort of essential space of the moon so much.
Right.
Maybe that's part of catalyzing this moon for them. Because one of the principles of Ayurveda is that nothing is usable unless it's catalyzed, right? Unless there's that Agni behind it to metabolize it. So this moon needs to become usable somehow to those people who already have too much earth and water. They need that Agni in there to metabolize this moon in their consciousness. Maybe that's going to happen through the 7th house, which is the opposite house, and the others, people in their life who they need to connect with, will give them that energy which will ignite this moon for them in a different way, allow them to digest it better.
Good idea. So don't spend the day, don't be alone all day.
Yeah, don't be alone.
Yeah. Though, too, you might be able to get some insight into the role that you play in your relationships. You know, because the full moon sheds light. So if you've had some question about your part in your relationships, it may become clear to you during this time. Okay, so now Gemini. For Gemini, the moon is in the 12th.
Right.
And so that is a house of, it can be a house of repose as well, because the 12th house is related to like going into your private prayer room, your meditation space, and spending time alone with the divine as you understand it. And so that is like a really positive manifestation of it. And or it's the house of expenses. So you may decide, because the full moon gives, even though it's in the 12th, you may decide that you want to spend some money, create an expense for your happiness, for something that gives you more of that alone time that you need to recharge your batteries and to reset yourself, because life can become pretty overwhelming and very busy, and it's hard to get time to yourself on a regular basis unless you sacrifice something else to do it. And so, you know, you might want to think about how you can perhaps incur an expense to make that happen more easily. So what would you like to say about that, Neeshee? Or just the moon in the 12th for Gemini?
Gemini is a sign of connection, and the moon is about receptivity. And so what does this full moon mean for Gemini? What are they going to connect to via this moon is the question that I'm thinking about. And the 12th house is about what comes up for me, meditation, like you were saying. You know, that is the house that's really about that. And I would really recommend that Gemini people meditate and connect with the moon at that energetic level of prana, life energy. Connect with the moon as life energy. Receive that life energy into their bodies. This is a time to be nourished through meditation or through yoga, which is like a meditation. You know, it's exercise that makes use of the breath and energy coordinated with the body. So I would say this is a good time to go into yoga and meditation and really tune into the moon at that spiritual level, that energetic level.
Okay, that sounds good. And also, too, we can see here that Gemini's second house, Gemini rising second house, is really loaded with energy. So the full moon is aspecting it. It's aspecting its own sign of Cancer. So that is very significant by itself, because when a planet aspects its own sign, it's a manifesting planet. So it helps to manifest something here in the second house significations. Then it's also aspected by the Sun, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, Mars, and K2. So, wow, that's a lot going on there in that second house. So, well, the second house, it's very similar to Aries rising, I would say, just because the full moon is aspecting it.
Right.
So, you know, it can be a time also for you to contemplate how you're getting your needs met, if maybe the way you're doing it is working for you or not, and how you can make that better. And of course, by spending time in the 12th with your understanding of the divine, can definitely shed light on that. And then all these other planets aspecting it just really makes a strong emphasis for that, for you. Your resources, what are they? And not just physical, you know, like money in the bank and people that you know, a big following, for instance, on YouTube or whatever your resources are. It can also be like emotional resources. Are you resilient? Can you increase your resiliency so that you can handle the things, you know, that Mars and Saturn and Rahu and K2 bring into our lives here on Earth in order for us to grow? But, you know, bouncing back from a setback is really what we most want. It's what we want from our moon, you know, the emotional side of ourselves. And that is to respond and to receive whatever good there is, and then to transform a difficult experience into something that of value. So, yeah. So, Neeshee, you have something more on that? Just all that energy there flooding the second house for Gemini rising?
Well, it's really significant, and I think that the right understanding of life is that the energy dimension of existence is senior to the physical. You know, the physical is really just a denser form of that vibration, but it's a vibration that we're participating in. And for Geminis, they have a lot to gain from understanding that and connecting with that energetic source of life. So I would really encourage them to use this full moon to explore that more in terms of yoga and meditation and, you know, even philosophically.
Yeah. Yeah, what are your needs? Do you really even know what they are? Because sometimes we're not fully aware of that. And the full moon being full of light well, bring light to that area, because if you don't know what your needs really are, then you have no hope to fulfill them, to get them fulfilled. And of course, a lot of this takes place outside of our conscious understanding. You know, we're getting our needs fulfilled in many, many ways all day long without being aware of it. It's part of the grace of the divine that, you know, even if we don't know the divine or experience or consciously aware of it, even if we're atheist, we're still benefiting from all the things that we're receiving all day long. So anyway, that's all I want to say about that. Otherwise it can turn into a sermon, which we don't want. Okay, so we can move on to Cancer then, Cancer rising. And the moon, as we were saying, is aspecting the first house. Well, actually, it's aspecting Cancer rising first house, but it's in the 11th for Cancer.
Right.
So the 11th house is a house of gains. Typically, it's the second from the 10th, meaning it's your income. You know, if you want to be real concrete about it, it's typically your income. It's also other ways that you can gain. It's a house of gains in general. And so if you don't actually gain something, it will show you how you can. If you're looking for it, if you're aware of it. And so like just mark it on your calendar for next Wednesday. You know, think about it and ask the universe to show me how I can have more gain in my life, maybe increase my income, or have a side business, or, you know, my relationships with my colleagues, your organizations perhaps that you can join, so that you're gaining resources in another way too, not just through money. So your turn, Neeshee.
Well, Cancer rising, these are the other lunar people of the zodiac besides Taurus, you know, because Cancer is the moon sign.
Right.
So similar, I'm going to say something similar to what I said about Taurus, which is make sure you don't gain too much. Or if you're going to gain, make sure that you're letting go of something that perhaps you need to release. Because that's the law of life, which is reception and release, inhalation, exhalation. For something more to come in, something else has to leave. And there's a lot of unnecessary things that we hold on to, which toxify us physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically. So I think a consideration for people who are already lunar types, like Cancer rising, and it's in their 11th house of gains, we should just encourage them to let go of something that they don't need anymore. Let go of something that's just they've been holding on to, so that they can allow for something new to come in.
Yeah, so they can fully receive the new thing.
Exactly, because that's what this full moon is. It's something that needs to be received, right? So we need to make room for it when these things happen. That's part of the beauty of astrology, is to see what's happening and to harmonize ourselves with it, so that we can utilize the energies of nature and participate in a life that's energizing and rejuvenating and fulfilling. So our well-being is served when we are living in harmony with what's actually happening astrologically. So that's why with this 11th house moon for Cancer people, they should really consider the best way to make use of this full moon. There's a lot of energy that they could be getting.
Yeah, you know what came into my mind when you were talking about that, about, you know, being aligned with nature, is I've read in some Ayurveda books, I don't remember which ones, but where they talked about actually resetting your hormones by sleeping in the moonlight. Could you talk about that just a little bit, especially for Cancer rising, especially for Cancer and Taurus rising, because they're aspecting Well, not just that, it's also aspecting Libra and Capricorn. So Taurus, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, the full moon is aspecting the ascendant, the body. So, like maybe going out for a moon bath? What do you say about that?
Yeah, I think that's a healthy thing for everybody to do, honestly.
Everyone? Okay.
In this day and age, we live abstracted from the lunar cycles because we live indoors. And so, I mean, sometimes people don't even know what the moon phase is, or they don't look at the sky. I mean, going out and connecting with the moon by just walking outside during the moon phases, and looking at it and just seeing what it is, actually trains the body to be more in harmony with that cycle. That's why women who miss their periods and so forth, one of the main things to recommend is really go outside and walk in the moonlight so that your body will start to align itself to the lunar cycle properly.
Oh, so that's great. So
similar concept with the hormones.
Yeah, so that means if you don't sleep in a room where moonlight comes in, you can still do that by going for moonlight walks?
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
And you can, you do it when there's a significant phase, like a full moon, a new moon, a crescent moon, just go out and connect with the fact that this is where we're at in the lunar cycle.
I see. Okay.
The body gets a message from that, and the hormones are part of our immunity. So what I spoke about earlier as ojas, that vital essence, that has a significant role to play in the functioning of our hormones, especially neurohormones. So that's why the moon is a key aspect of mental health and well-being, because when our hormones are not balanced, we're like all over the place. And if our neurochemistry is not balanced, then it's a similar thing. So yeah, bathing in moonlight definitely helps balance the hormones simply by allowing the intelligence of nature to reassert itself in the physical body, which the body tends to get abstracted from that intelligence through all the things we do that abstract us from nature.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And very, it makes me happy to hear that you can just really benefit from it, even if you can't actually sleep in moonlight.
It's, moon is one of the easiest things to benefit from.
Yeah.
Walk outside and just that's it. You can also, meditate in moonlight. You can just actually bathe in moonlight by sitting outside in the moonlight on the grass.
I love it.
You can also do pranayama.
Pranayama in the moonlight. Oh, explain what that is.
Not even necessarily in the moonlight, just in general. You can do lunar pranayama.
Could you explain a little bit more what pranayama is for our watchers in case they don't know?
Prana is energy, and so pranayama is about controlling the energy, the flow of energy in our bodies through breath. So pranayama utilizes specific breathing practices that allow us to utilize and balance the flow of energy in our bodies. And it's particularly based around the concept that we have three major nadis, or meridians, or channels. One is the sushumna, which is the main channel, also correlated with the spine. And around that, crisscrossing around that, are two minor channels, which is the Ida and the Pingala nadis. Now, the Ida nadi is a watery lunar channel that's conducting the moon's energy through the body at the subtle level. And the Pingala nadi is the fiery channel, the solar channel, and that's conducting the sun's energy in the body. So we want those two channels to be balanced. We want the solar and lunar energies in our bodies to be balanced. And one of the ways to balance it is simply to take control of it oneself. Rather than waiting for astrological events and so on, you can just actually practice pranayama and bring in more lunar essence if you don't have enough. Bring in more solar essence if you don't have enough. And you do that by doing alternate nostril breathing and so forth. People can Google this quite readily and discover what those techniques are. But each of those nadis connects through one of the nostrils.
Okay, and the lunar one is the left one, right?
Lunar one.
Yeah, and then the solar one is the right one, if I have it right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's why, often it's recommended to lay on the left side after eating a meal, because it will open the right nostril and allow for more solar energy to flow in and help you digest your food. Whereas at night, it's good to sleep on your right side so that the left nostril is more open. And that allows for more lunar energy to come in, because sleep is governed by lunar energy, not by solar energy, right?
No kidding. Okay, of course, that makes sense. It's at night.
Right. So this is a yogic understanding. And
Right.
so I can't remember how I got into that. Oh, the hormones and the health, right.
Yeah.
But people can also, if they need to balance their lunar energy or their hormones or anything governed by the moon, can also practice pranayama in this way. And people should Google that, or message me and talk to me about it, so I can give you a proper instruction on it. Can't get into that in this video, but
right. Yeah. Maybe
I wanted to put out there.
Video. Maybe you can make a separate video.
That's true. I could do a separate video on pranayama.
Okay, awesome. I think pranayama is misnamed. I think it should be pranayami. How much? It's just so. It feels so good when you do it on a regular basis.
It's really good to do.
Yeah. Okay, so now on to Leo. For Leo, the full moon is in the 10th. And yeah, so we don't even, we can talk a little bit about Rahu being there. But, so the 10th is aspected by Saturn too. And, it's your work. It's the usual 10th house stuff. It's the work. It's your responsibilities. It's your sphere of influence. It's your reputation. So the full moon in Taurus there, something good is coming for that. Perhaps you'll find out, somebody will tell you something that someone said about you that was good, so that enhances your reputation. Or perhaps you'll be noticed by your boss. Or if you're in business for yourself, your clients, your customers will just shoot you an email and thank you. But it can be something simple like that. And then Saturn, he's highly dignified in the sign of Capricorn, so he gives good results too, even though his nature is to constrict. But he brings us to our destiny by narrowing the path. So Saturn aspecting that house, I think it can bring something good too, just because he's dignified. Now, from an Ayurveda point of view, maybe it's not necessarily so. So what would you say about this? I mean, obviously the full moon was good, period.
Right.
It is for anybody. But Leo,
I would say, I think what you're saying is great, and it's true at one level. At another level, of course, there could be some of that constricting energy on the moon from Saturn. I think we would see that more psychologically. Mm. But if that psychological limitation can be broken through or seen more clearly in the light of this full moon, then there's a lot of energy waiting to be unlocked for Leos.
I like that. Yeah, that's true. Because that's what the moon does. He sheds light.
Sheds light.
The moon rules the mind. So.
And the Leos are already experiencing a lot of lunar influence simply because of Rahu being there in their first house and Ketu there being in the 7th. So, Rahu and Ketu are not separate from the moon. So they're already getting they're already having to see a lot of things that are not usually being seen. This full moon is really nice in the sense that it might throw more light where things have seemed shadowy, where things have seemed more obscured, and where things have felt confusing, and where there just needs to be clarity. Well, that light of clarity will be this full moon, and Leos have something to look forward to, I think.
Oh, yeah. Look, it's very close in degree, too.
It is. That's right.
Yeah. Very interesting. In Western astrology, this would be a grand, not a grand trine, but what is that? I shouldn't have said anything because now I don't remember what it is. Oh, a grand square, because of all these planets here in all the fixed signs. Mm-hmm. So this is making a grand square for them, which is a tremendous amount of energy. And the moon is the trigger. So it's triggering this whole thing off. And what would you say that this could be a time, because the moon is also the growth principle. Mm-hmm. that something could really grow here. And they would see the growth, their own personal growth, perhaps in their career, but also in their whole life, basically, because the 10th house is an angular house, and planets in the angles, they tend to produce more. They're more powerful. So it's very powerful because of it being in an angular house too. And
Yeah,
then,
I think it's great for their growth.
yeah, definitely. And the moon is aspecting their 3rd house, which is learning new skills. It's teammates. And since the moon's in the 10th, teammates are significant here, people that you're working together with. And it's aspecting the 6th, too, for Leo rising. And the 6th is like your health regimes. So perhaps there can be some renewal, because it's hard to stay consistent with these things. And we notice that we do less and less over time, unless we get recharged. And so the moon here is like recharging the 6th house too. And so, did you already say something about the health implications of this for Leo rising?
I don't know if I did or I didn't.
Okay. All right.
Leo is a fire sign, so it's similar to Aries people. They've already, like I said, been going through a lot of this Rahu Ketu stuff over the past period of time. So this full moon is a nice break for them and gives them an opportunity to really shine in a different way. Where they maybe have felt like they haven't been able to shine much, or maybe they feel like, you know, that kind of glorious, brilliant sun energy that is what they're meant to embody seems a little bit obscured. And so this moonlight, this full moon showing up in their 10th house will give them an opportunity to be bright again and to feel that sense of energy flowing in them and give them some clarity in the midst of what can be a confusing time.
Yes,
so I think it's mostly psychological, you know, the health implication for them.
Yeah, and look at all this stuff in Scorpio in their 4th house of the inner emotional life.
Right.
So there's quite an emphasis here on that.
A lot going on there.
Yeah, no kidding. So, you know, Scorpio is a planet that, a sign, excuse me, that makes us aware of our vulnerabilities. But the full moon is really helping with that. And the 4th house is our inner emotional life. So the psychological aspects that you were saying, that is emphasized here. Plus it's your home too, just where you live. Perhaps you're realizing that you're working too much and not enjoying enough fulfillment from your work, meaning taking the time to rest and in enjoying the fruits of your labor, so that you're not just continually always in action, moving, and not receiving. So there's kind of an emphasis on the feminine. Yeah. Okay, so now Virgo. All right, Virgo has the full moon in the 9th. And the 9th house is the house of higher knowledge, meaning it's church, it's spirituality, it's ashram, it's universities, it's higher knowledge, and it's a spiritual house. It's also the house of marriage. So having the full moon in the 9th for Virgo rising can be something giving to you, either in your spiritual development, your spiritual path, your marriage, perhaps your studies. And yeah, it's the mind. There's an emphasis on the mind here. The 9th house, being a house of higher knowledge, is related to the mind. So this is nice. I think this is, you could make some progress here. Perhaps you're wondering, okay, what am I really want to major in life? You could get a consultation. Like, this is a great time to get a consultation. Have you noticed this, Neeshee? Whenever somebody comes to me for the first time for a reading, I always like to see where the transits are that day. So many times it's a lunar return. They come in doing a lunar return.
Wow, that's interesting. I've never thought of doing that.
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's like they're coming to expand their mind. They want to see with the full moon. They want to see where they're at. Where are they on their path? And what are they not seeing? Because getting a reading is a way to see what you can't see.
Seeking higher knowledge.
Seeking higher knowledge, exactly. So this would be a really good time to do something like that.
Get a reading.
Get a reading, right? Or to have a consultation with your spiritual director, your guru, your somebody who is an inspiration to you, perhaps, in your spiritual path. Same thing for your marriage. Like, this would be an awesome time, even though it's Wednesday, it's the middle of the week, to set aside time to do something fun with your spouse. Something perhaps you guys have just been too busy to get to. Just set aside the time. It would be, a nice thing to do. Because again, the moon is in a Venus sign. So there you go. It's the planet that rules marriage too. I find it interesting that the house of higher knowledge and the house of marriage is the same.
Right. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, because being usually in relationship, not for everyone though, but usually relationship is an expanding thing.
That's right. And you learn something about yourself from the vantage point of another. That mirroring effect is also something that gives you quite a lot of knowledge.
Yes, exactly. Right. And this time it's something nice, okay? Because the moon is a gentle planet. The moon is gentle and full gives. So it's comfortable. It likes people to be comfortable. It likes to grow. It likes to see people grow. And maybe you can focus on how your marriage can grow or how you can grow your spiritual development. All ninth house things.
Mm-hmm.
So would you like to say something about that? Just about the moon in the ninth for
Sure.
Virgo rising?
Well, I'll make a general remark first, which is that I think people should get more readings than they tend to.
Mm-hmm.
I just, going off of what you said about the transits, I think it's important because there's the astrological landscape is shifting all the time, and people should get readings for like all the different transits, like, throughout the year, really. Like, they should try to tune in these moments when they need it and benefit from that. It's like astrology shouldn't be limited to just get your birth chart done, and it's like, now you've had that done, and then like if you have a breakdown, then you'll call your astrologer again or something. I think it's important, and that's part of what we're doing here is looking at a current moment, and you can see that there's so much going on. So Virgo people, if you haven't talked to your astrologer in a while, give them a ring and see what's going on. Really would recommend it because you have a lot to gain from doing something like that, or a spiritual guide, something of that kind, someone who embodies that ninth house for you.
Right.
And medically speaking, I would say that Virgo being an earth sign and the moon being in an earth sign this time, that's really nice. It shows that Virgo is already in the same zone as the energy of this moon. It's ready to make use of this moon. It's a stabilizing influence for them. It just makes them stronger and more stable and more grounded in that which they are. And that's what kind of the ninth house is. It's higher knowledge. It's not just knowledge. Like, you already have knowledge. Then you get higher knowledge. It's an expansion of your present base. So I see this moon as shedding a light, an expansive light on the ground that Virgo is already standing on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. Now, I've noticed too that the moon is aspecting the second house for Virgo too. So
Right.
go back and listen to what we said for Aries and for Gemini, and you can get more insight into what it means for the moon to be aspecting your second house, which is the critical house for the moon.
Right.
And let me see, it's also aspecting your fifth, where Saturn is. And the fifth house has to do with children, creativity. It's another house of the mind as well. And it's also rewards from your work. So Saturn is there, and Saturn is one of the planets. Okay, the moon is a planet that looks all around. So that's why the moon is one of the perspective planets. And it does it through the imagination, where it imagines a better circumstances. It can imagine how they want the outcome of something to be. And Saturn is a planet that looks down, and that's because he's one of our survival planets. And he helps us to prepare for the winter and to keep ourselves safe so we don't do foolish things. And when you have Saturn and the moon aspecting each other, if you are finding yourself having some fearful thoughts, then another reason to consult your astrologer. Saturn may be trying to tell you that you need to do something his job is to anticipate things that can go wrong. And Virgo does that too. They anticipate things that can go wrong. And then they take action to prevent those things from happening. So it's a good thing if Saturn's aspecting the moon for you in the fifth house. So that's all I want to say about that. So shall we move on to Libra then?
Sure.